It's good to speak with you today, Matt. Today we're speaking with, I think, are you in the Shanghai area right now, or?
I'm actually in Singapore at the moment, so we have three offices. Hong Kong's our headquarters. We have a Shanghai office, but today I'm in Singapore.
Great. And I look forward to hearing your views on trends as far as Hong Kong being a regional or a global hub for sourcing, global sourcing. Before we start, can you provide a brief background of yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So just in summary, ConnectedGroup is a regional executive recruitment and search business. We operate across those three locations that I mentioned, and we run around about 70 to 80 staff. I run the group, the Hong Kong office, but I also oversee our manufacturing sourcing supply chain division, which predominantly recruits in Asia, really from manufacturing all the way through the supply chain, but predominantly between manufacturing and sourcing office. So we work on opportunities from upper mid to senior level. I personally work on the more senior searches, and location-wise, quite a lot out of Hong Kong, but also southern China in the east, so Shanghai, and then in some outlying sort of production offices. So we recruit into Bangladesh, Cambodia, Vietnam, and then also looking at some emerging markets like Myanmar as well.
Thanks. Can you talk about what are the trends that you see as far as Hong Kong being a global sourcing hub?
I think that probably the key trend that we've seen over, really, if you look over the last maybe 5 to 10 years, is there's been a bit of a cycle. So we've seen organizations migrate sourcing offices from Hong Kong and move them to either southern China or Shanghai, depending on the nature of the product base and their manufacturing base. Part of the drive for that is obviously cost. I think that the sort of salary costs in those locations on average lower, and that was a major driver, and also to be closer to manufacturing partners. What we've seen really more so in the last 2 to 3 years is actually a return of some of those offices or individuals back to Hong Kong for a number of reasons. I think we see that at the senior level, particularly if you're talking about expatriate talent, that the cost of having those individuals on the ground in somewhere like Shanghai is actually more expensive than in Hong Kong. The cost of schooling in China, international schooling is much higher than Hong Kong. Individuals need car driver. The expectation of full expatriate package is much higher. So that's been a major factor. What we also see is that whilst the operational level of staff is technically adept in China and very capable of dealing directly with China-based manufacturers, what they struggle to do is transcend the cultural boundary between the Chinese operation and the overseas operations. So if you have a merchandising sourcing manager in Shanghai trying to deal with a supplier in Bangladesh, all of a sudden the advantages that you previously had evaporate quite quickly, and it's very hard to do business to gain the necessary advantages. So what we see is a sort of migration of more of the strategic office back to Hong Kong, so that what's coming back is a smaller, leaner operation where you have more regional capability, more strategic capability, and then left on the ground in China is a lot of the technical capability. So quality production management remains on the ground because that's where the cost savings can be gained. So that's kind of the general trend that we see. So as I was saying, so the volumes, the market volumes are increasing, i.e. the product shipment volumes have been going up, but slowly to both the US and to Europe more recently. What we then see as a result of that is a continued focus on Asia as a sourcing hub. Organizations, however, are tending to look at how they can achieve more with less, and how they can really drive efficiencies through the supply chain because of the increasing cost of salaries, particularly in China. But it's not just a China issue. If you look at even emerging markets like Bangladesh, Vietnam, Philippines, Cambodia, they're all suffering from the same rapid increase in costs. And China still offers the better quality, greater technical capability, and the capacity that is never going to be matched by other locations. So we see this sort of diversification into emerging markets, mainly in the soft lines sector, so mainly in apparel. That is starting to grow into accessories and leather goods, where people like Coach have set some standards. But fundamentally, organizations realize that the cheaper cost of the locations that we're talking about is not necessarily going to be the long-term advantage, and as a result, they're trying to drive much greater efficiencies through the supply chain. So what we're seeing is this shift from China back to Hong Kong, or greater emphasis on Hong Kong as the really the global or certainly regional sourcing hub. And in that location, they try to identify the type of talent that can bring value to their manufacturing partners. So yeah, the type of skill sets that we're looking for are really those people that can go out, consult with the manufacturing partners, really focus on value chain rather than just supply chain, and increase efficiencies as a way of sharing in cost reductions as a partnership moving forwards.
And regarding from a talent angle, do you have any recommendations for companies regarding the trends that are happening as far as salary and packages, and what are some differences between Hong Kong and Shanghai in terms of the talent angle?
I think the key, there's a couple of factors there. So we're still pretty heavy. If you look at the sourcing space, where I probably spend most of my time talking to talent, what I would say is that they're still fairly heavily reliant on a candidate universe of overseas talent, so at a leadership level. So we see expatriates running the sourcing operations in that kind of general management capacity, or in senior leadership roles in larger organizations. And for those type of individuals, China is probably a less attractive location. So Shanghai compared to Hong Kong tends to be a less attractive location, just because of I think ease of living in Hong Kong is greater, and cost of education, ease of securing education is a challenge for expatriate families, and so for them, Hong Kong very often seems to be a more attractive place. I often see expatriates do do a 3-year stint in Shanghai or in China, and then gravitate back to Hong Kong. As I said, cost of package in general higher, taxes higher, and whilst you can make the savings as you move down the gradings in the organisation, certainly at senior level, we're seeing that differentiation. So, I think the cost of living and the relative cost of living in Hong Kong has become more competitive. So I think organisations need to look at how they structure a strategic office out of Hong Kong, and whether that just purely be China focused in terms of the manufacturing base, or particularly when you're looking at a regional global hub here, then certainly you need that capability with a mindset to think across various locations. So you can definitely make some savings there at senior level. I think the market has become more and more localized. You've got quite a mixture of talent at senior level, some of whom operating off of more complex expatriate packages, which will include housing and education as part of the puzzle, and then you have others who have localized and are operating off a purely a cash package. So I think my advice to companies is to take a big view of the market, and be prepared that there will be quite a disparity between the kind of the low end and the high end when we talk about leadership roles within this space. I think in both locations there is of course a pool of localized talent, and certainly there are some great leaders both in the mainland and in Hong Kong, but that pool is significantly smaller at senior level than the expatriate talent that we talk about. I think that also what I find is that the salaries in China are still rising at a faster pace compared to Hong Kong, and I think that organizations are finding that maybe when you look at the relative cost of manage a great individual in China to Hong Kong, salaries are getting closer, plus the experience level relative to the grade is higher in Hong Kong than it is in China. There seems to be a deeper learning in Hong Kong from individuals that you'd hire. They spend longer in the organizations that they work for. So therefore the learning is more ingrained, and you can spend a similar amount of money but get a greater return on that investment out of an individual. So again, I think that for particularly around supply chain sourcing, merchandising type roles, sort of Hong Kong still has that attraction. But on the technical side, then we're certainly seeing companies either maintaining their own technical teams in China or maintaining very small management capability there and then outsourcing to external vendors.
Well, thank you, Matt, for sharing today.
No problem at all. And if there's anything else I can tell you in the future, please just let me know.